good morning, good evening, good afternoon, folks. It's me, the Guerrilla, coming to you live on this edition with my main man, Ben Kelleran, over at Kelleran's Corner. And guys, you can check him out, contrariancorner.com, contrariancorner.com, and check out all of Ben's works all over YouTube. He's been interviewed by so many people, from our buddy Tom Luongo and everywhere else. Ben has the pulse on the energy markets, as well as the geopolitics and the geostratagem surrounding surrounding the actual real currency of the world, which is energy. And so without further ado, Ben, how are you, buddy? Good morning.
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, man. It's always a pleasure. Lots of things going on. I would just right now, this is a sidestepping a little bit, but right now, you heard about that Israeli cybersecurity expert who got pinched in Las Vegas in a child pedophile sting operation. You heard about that?
I did hear about that.
Mm-hmm. And you know how our government said, "Oh, we never met with the guy. We didn't do anything, and he's got a court date. He's going to come back for his court date." Yeah, sure. We're going to hold our breaths. Now it's been revealed the guy met with NSA and he met with the FBI right before he was released.
Yeah, consider me shocked.
Yeah. Oh my. I mean, what's left in terms of trust in any of these institutions anymore, man? It's incredible.
That's the thing that I think is maybe a 4-hour conversation, but I can try and pack it into 4 minutes. The institutional trust, and you see, like, even the polls, which are garbage anyway, but even the polls that show Congress approval ratings and the media's approval ratings, all these different groups are like, they're basically most hated groups in the US. Doesn't matter if you're left, right, whatever.
Right.
And I like to look at the media as basically boomers watching their soap operas, because that's basically what it is. Yeah. And it's just amazing to me that people still put any stock in what these people have to say. And I think the best yardstick for all this stuff is, don't listen to what they say, watch what they do, and then that'll tell you all you need to know.
Exactly. Very well said, man. I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. It's kind of funny because I was reading some of the comment sections with people that were commenting on this news that's been breaking all over the place. I think Breaking Points, the kid Sagar and Jetty is the one who broke it. He had a source that divulged this, and it's pretty hilarious. At this point, it's like the question becomes, what is the point of these government sting operations? They're just literally catching their own friends. It's almost as if they're pranking each other. A lot of the comments were saying, right? This is how ridiculous things have gotten. They're literally just pranking each other. What's the point of it all? It's just pointless, man. No one's getting caught. No one's going to jail. It's just stupid, bro.
Well, I mean, if you go back far enough and look at things like Waco and Ruby Ridge, even the Oklahoma City bombing, there's government fingerprints in all different ways all over them. So yeah, 100%. I think all this stuff has been going on for a long time, and they're either just getting more blatant about it, or they're not as good at covering their tracks, or whatever it is. But it's definitely interesting times, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So Ben, what's on your plate? What's on your radar, man? What do you want to get into today?
Yeah, I think we can jump right into some of the stuff I've been seeing with oil, just because that's been it's funny, because maybe I'll back up and start with broader markets here for a little bit, because there's been a lot of talk about, is this next leg of the bull market? Are these valuations sustainable? Whatever the conversation topic is. And you see stuff like, I'm sure you saw this headline, Chamath is launching a new SPAC. It's the American Exceptionalism SPAC with $250 million. It's like, sheesh, man.
A new SPAC? What are you talking about?
Like, SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company. Basically, just
okay, got it.
Yeah, giant pool of money to go and buy whatever business he goes and decides is worth it. But it does kind of bring up another topic. I've had a couple of people
just fucking grifting and grafting and blowing bubbles so they can, there's. It's so funny. Like I've said this. I don't know who said this actually. I've said it as well. Tariffs really work if you actually have a physical industry, right? And so these guys, what's Chamath going to do? He's gonna put money into the next multi-billion-dollar dick pic app I mean, like, what's going? You know what I'm saying? It's like
You're gonna do is you're gonna buy a call center branded as AI and then IPO it with the ticker H1B.
that's it, brother. That's it. And then and you know, another stock popping up. We don't have captains of industry anymore. We don't. We just have a bunch of grifters and paper billionaires. It's just disgusting to see the way things are, man.
Yeah, I think this is another history rabbit hole, and I get why the so-called robber barons get a bad name. Like um, they're not role models in every way. But if you look at those guys that were captains of industry, as you call it, the like Rockefellers and Carnegies, and what they put back into the country, whether it's the library system, education system, and there are definite flaws in like what Rockefeller did with education and medicine. Obviously, like medicine's this whole separate rabbit hole. But the point is, like, all those guys put in a vast fortune into building real estate or train stations or whatever the project was, and it wasn't just, oh, we're gonna go buy a $300 million yacht and like basically mess around with monopoly money, right? Or we're going to go to space and build something that, I mean, I think we have bigger problems here at home than basically focusing too much on the extraterrestrial right now. So anyway,
and that's a lovely distracting piece to begin with. You know, you got all these jackasses. I escaped from Area 51. Why are you alive? Why are you talking on a pod? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. Which three-letter agency do you work for?
Yeah, exactly. All these experts, Stephen Greer and Lou Elizondo. Oh yeah, we're communicating with 4 different extraterrestrial species. Sure, buddy. How many acid tabs did it take to get you to that level? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Pathetic.
No, I think it is really interesting because you see, and this goes back to the media space a little bit. You see the breakdown of trust, and like there's no unified narrative now, and it's not like everyone's in their own echo chamber, but there are certain things that just get tuned out, and there's no shared experience. There's no like TV shows that everyone's watching, no shared culture. And you definitely see that divide starting to pop up on social media and different things where it's like I try and limit how much time I spend on Twitter, but it is entertaining to scroll sometimes. And you just see just so much slop, but also a ton of content is designed to push all your buttons and get you pissed off or whatever the emotion is. And I don't know if that's going to change or if that's basically a durable thing with social media. So be interesting to see.
No, it definitely will, man. You know, it's something else. I'll tell you, man. It's something else. You know what I'm saying? It's all these games are being played. We just had the whole Anchorage thing, right? And I found it laughable, though. You know, a lot of Americans are responding, "Oh my God, look at him! Trump is really showing him who's boss by flying a B-2 bomber with some F-22s overhead." Like, that's just straight up for the American audience, right? That's just
that's just because he's like a teenager when it comes to this stuff. He's like, you know, it'd be really cool.
Yeah,
so we flew 5 planes right over the top.
Yeah,
and like it's like the teenage version of like fast cars and like posters, all that stuff. But I mean, I can't blame him for it. I understand why, like, you want to flex in that way when you have Putin in the area. But at the same time, I do kind of wonder how all this stuff, because there's been different takes on how all this Alaska meeting stuff is going to play out. If you're going to see economic deals or ceasefire or whatever the result is. And like my policy with stuff like this is give it some time to breathe. And also, I just don't know how much is going to change when you basically, as Putin, you're in the driver's seat for what you really need as far as Ukraine, and whether it's the 4 oblasts or whether they're called provinces, I guess is the Western term. But if that's what he is going to go for, he's going to get it. And if the West is not going to give it to him, then he'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. How do you think what are some of the things that you're tracking right now?
Yeah, so as far as oil markets, there's been a couple interesting indicators that have been popping up where at the same time you have the S&P, I think is now 20% or 21% in the top 3. So Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia now make up 20% of the S&P 500. I'm sure it's worse for QQQs, but at the same time, oil's like I will keep pounding the drum because the next 6 months might be like the bears might be right. We might see more supply than demand can handle. We could go a little bit lower, but you already see what's happening in the Permian with like the investment there. But I'll just flip up some charts here and share a screen real quick. But basically, if you kind of look at some of these different things as far as energy, if you can pop that up when you get a chance.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
When you look at some of these things, my view is that like 2026 is going to be a very good year for oil specifically. And it's going to be, what do the Saudis do? When do they get to 10.5 million barrels of production? And that kind of depends on how all this other stuff demand plays out. But we got, what was this? On Sunday, someone was showing a chart that for the first time ever, you have speculators net short WTI. Right.
Yeah.
So not during COVID when oil prices were negative, not during the like brutal OPEC sell off after 2014. Right. First time now you have a net short position there. And you look at what's going on with like the amount of water that's coming out of the Permian. Right. That is actually another issue where it's kind of on the back burner for now, but it's not going to stay that way. Over the next 3, 4, 5 years, I think what you're going to see is water is going to become a very important issue for the Permian Basin and kind of Texas in general. And what happens is a lot of these wells are producing a ton of water, and that water has to go somewhere. And it has like there are service industries devoted to it, but I think there's a lot of as these wells produce more water, it basically drives the cost of production higher. It has a whole bunch of other side effects, like people have talked about earthquakes and other things that happen. You can have some of these pools leaking into the well areas. It's pretty interesting to watch, and we'll kind of see how it develops. But I kind of look at some of these different things, and they're a sign that the actual resource, like it's not gonna like start falling off a cliff as far as production tomorrow, but I think we're a lot closer to a peak in U.S. production than most people realize. So, this is the other chart that I think is kind of shows what I was talking about, the S&P 500, where you have energy now down to a 3% weight, which is, I mean, if you look back at past like history, there aren't many times where it gets this small. And like you've kind of said before, if you really think about the way the world's set up, Exxon and Chevron are more important companies than some of these tech, like social media giants or whatever it is, right? And I think when you look at what happens with passive and the distortions there, it just creates these markets that are very fragile, I guess, and not like they basically don't do what they were designed to do 30, 40, 50 years ago, even more. I think this is why we'll get back to this eventually, but markets will go back to allocating capital based on business opportunities. And I've actually had a couple people reach out to me and say, hey, like, really like the way you look at the world. You should think about starting a fund or doing something like that. And there's part of me that wants to do it, but part of me is just like, oh man, the amount of brain damage that would come with it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is interesting where it's like, okay, if you think you can deliver like good risk-adjusted returns to investors, and it basically isn't that much different from what I'm doing now. It's just something I've been thinking about lately. So the last couple energy slides is oil is now at a 30-year low relative to the S&P if you take out negative oil prices in COVID. And so like all these things are at a point where I think it's one of the most asymmetric opportunities in commodities, and I think there's a lot of ways to play it. But I just look at a setup like this, and it's really hard to see how one we go a ton lower, right? We could in the short term, anything's possible, but like if you do have like a 1 year plus like time horizon, I just think there's a setup where people are going to be so far off sides, and you kind of saw it in the positioning. You see what's happening in like capex, like they're already cutting what 2 billion in 2 quarters. And if you kind of look and get into some of the financials of some of these companies, like none of these guys in the Permian make any serious amount of money with oil where it is now, right? So you're going to see capex dry up, like the rig count is going to do what it's going to do, and the frac spreads, which is the completions and all that stuff. I mean, it's just a matter of time before this starts to show up in U.S. production, and I think it will be one of those things where I was talking to Wilson from HFI Research, who you guys should all go follow, at least on Twitter. Very interesting stuff. But we were getting into it, and he basically pointed out that all this stuff is going to get very obvious to the market because it's not like you have a ton of active investors out there and a ton of funds that are focused on this stuff, right? There's just not a bunch of money that is trying to do what the markets are designed to do. And I think there's a lot of this is why I think a potential fund might be interesting is there's just so many opportunities, but they're either too small or too illiquid, or people just don't care. And I think that's the thing that's interesting is even in public markets, there's going to be stuff where if you really just view it as buying a piece of business, then you can find some of these things and make out like a bandit if you have the patience to sit on it for a long enough time.
Yeah. It's a very good point, man. Very good point. How do you think the broader markets are going to be doing in terms of like energy and how things are going to be playing out? Europe versus us versus what's happening with Asia and whatnot.
That's a good question. I mean, I guess the one little news tidbit that kind of ties into geopolitics and the Alaska meeting. Apparently, the Azerbaijan, who is one of the main suppliers of oil to Ukraine, had not a pipeline leak, but basically polluted oil where they have to flush the pipeline or something. I'm not sure. They've basically Kazakhstan has suspended deliveries to through this pipeline because of dirty oil from Azerbaijan. So it's just one of those things where you're going to continue to see, like Ukraine's been hitting Russian refineries and all these different kind of touch points. And smart guys like Martin Armstrong and others have basically pointed out, like, hey, we think this thing is going to pick back up and escalate as a conflict sometime in the next year, give or take, but really in 2026. I just have a hard time seeing how like people ignore the geopolitical side of energy markets for much longer. And I guess to get into Europe, which I think is I'm a big time secular bear on Europe because I think they're right. The US is not perfect, but I'd much rather be here than over there. And the thing that's interesting to watch with them is they basically, they basically are in a spot where they don't have their own energy. They are totally reliant on imports. And I do have questions about LNG and all that working. And if you do get into a serious conflict with Russia, like what is the ultimate high value target in Europe? It's going to be a lot of those LNG stations where they load, unload. They take 5 years to build. And if you're really, if you're Russian, you really want to put the screws to Europe. It's like, well, wait till November, December, and you get a cold snap. You hit the LNG plants, and where does that leave them? Right, going back to coal or solar, right?
Yeah,
the solar's not going to work. So,
no.
That's where all this stuff. Like, I think I understand why people are excited about LNG and what that means for natural gas. I just wonder if that really is going to compete with what different regions can do with pipelines and what the kind of cost structure is. And I think you have 25% of the gas basically evaporate in transit. So like all that stuff just makes me wonder is like, hey,
Yeah, I didn't realize that. So there is the temperature and all this stuff affects LNG transportation.
Say it again.
Like LNG can evaporate in transportation.
Yeah. So the process of and I'm not like a chemist or engineer or anything, so feel free to double check all this. But basically, the process of turning it into a liquid to put it on ships and then regasifying it as you're like basically pulling it off the ship, and then in transport, some of it leaks. I think. Basically, I've heard different numbers, but anywhere from 20 to 25% of like the initial cargo doesn't actually make it to the end destination.
That's just terrible. On top of the fact that it's so expensive to do this. I mean, after all, I mean, this is so much better than cheap Russian reliable gas, right? I mean, this is so much better, right?
That's the thing is like, if you really think about it, you look at what's happened to the German economy and how it's been shrinking over the last several years. Not actually like, oh, this is a terrible time for our economy. It's slow, whatever. It's like the economy's actually shrinking and they're in deep shit because of what they've done with their energy policy. And like the natural, obvious response is piped gas from Russia. And you kind of see what happens without it. I just wonder, I assume at some point in the next couple of years, the whole Russia thing will either, there's basically two paths where one is you get an escalation, Europe goes in whole hog, and then all bets are off. Who knows what happens? The other is they realize that Russia is not going to be stopped as far as Ukraine. They're also not going to invade the rest of Europe. So I don't know why they're worried about that, or at least they claim to be worried.
They're a bunch of hyperventilating drama queen LARPers. That's what the European politicians, well, most Western politicians are. They're just drama queens, right? They're Burlingame said it best. They're estrogenic, and these are estrogenic type things to do. What? Number one, get around and get real clicky. It's us versus them, right? Number two, just create all these fantastical rumors and fantasies of war and invasion and all these things that are going to happen to you if we don't stop them, right? And then they all get together and LARP and look busy and look important and peacock one another. It's absolute insanity. And in the midst of all of this, in this fantasy of their own self-importance, actual real stuff is bound to happen. And that's where the danger part of this whole entire thing comes into play, man. That's what's worrisome here.
Well, that's the thing is like, if they get a reality check and see, okay, Germany actually needs natural gas, Russia is the logical conclusion, then I think you could basically assume that it's the win-win situation, right? Where Russia gets what they want in Ukraine, they get to basically start exporting energy into Europe, and that's what they would do if the whole kind of current power structure wasn't built on how much they hate Russia and want to break it apart, tear it into pieces, and basically take it, like divvy it up for resources, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna overthrow Putin and we're gonna take over Russia and divvy up the resources. These people are lunatics, man. Lunatics. They're a byproduct of how stupid the educational system is in the Western world. That's how stupid these morons are. Like they're not based in any sort of reality whatsoever. From them, the politicians, to their think tanks, to their advisors, to their intelligence agencies, it's just a giant joke.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see how this gets better from, like, especially with some of the European stuff going on.
Yeah.
I've been seeing this is a little bit of a segue here, but I've been seeing more and more talk about what's going on in England with like civil unrest there. I don't know. There's a great piece.
I find that to be absolutely. I've seen that too. I've seen that trending quite a bit, and I find it to be absolutely laughable. Right? How are they going to? How are they going to? You know, what's going to be the civil war? Like England is literally at this point one of the most cucked countries in the Western world. Right? What are they going to do? And they're also disarmed heavily. What are they going to do? What's civil war? Oh, what's going to happen? No one's going to. I think it's a fever dream of to keep people, especially fringe elements, in an altered state of mind, thinking that at any second now it's going to pop off. We're ready for a civil war, when actual real civil war could never really happen. No, I don't think anybody's going to do anything. I think I think the West is swirling the toilet bowl. I think if there's any potentiality of anything happening anywhere, kinetically speaking, it'll probably be here in the United States, man. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I guess on England, the one pushback is there is a point of no return on what people will accept, even if they are not as they don't have as much of a temper or as rambunctious, I guess, as maybe people might be here in the U.S. But when you see what's going on with the immigration and some of the rape gang stuff, all the other different things, where I think there is a point where people just say enough's enough, and whether they have arms or not, you're maybe going to see like, okay, this like certain neighborhoods get burned down or riots or whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be some like organized mass like revolution, armed conflict, but I think that there are enough people that are way closer to the situation than I am, basically flagging, hey, like something's up here, and I just don't want to ignore it. And do I think it's going to turn into what could happen in the US if things popped off here? Like, no, I think it'd be way more chaotic here if we did get to that stage. But at the same time, I think there are certain things going on in the US where I'm sort of optimistic about the direction things are headed. And a lot of that comes back to like the generational change, which I've kind of talked about briefly. But I think when people see some of these different things that have happened and realize like how younger generations look at the world, I think the way that leads, I think, is pretty interesting, because you have what's happened with inflation, what's happened with housing prices, what's happened with wages, where it's, I mean, I've seen different charts over the last week where like the average real wage is basically at an all-time low compared to gold.
Right.
And the quote is so here's a question you can guess, and we'll see how close you get. What's if you go back to 1970 and look at where gold was then, what do you think the minimum wage would be in today's dollar terms?
Oh my God. $50.
So I don't have a hourly here, but it would come out to a $290,000 salary
if we kept on the gold standard.
If you're getting paid minimum wage,
yeah,
290,000, right? And so I'm not saying that we're going to go straight to whatever that number would be, 100 some odd dollars an hour, but I think it does show why younger generations are pissed off, because as far as economics go, it actually is harder nowadays to get ahead. And when you have all the immigration stuff going on at the same time too, it basically like boomers weren't competing with H-1Bs or unlimited immigration, right? They didn't have older generations trying to pull the ladder up behind them, or institutions renting out all the houses, or not all, but enough of the houses to make a difference. Deal with all that. And so I think that's where, if you start to see movement on some of those things in the right direction, and the political Overton window to shift, I think it's going to happen pretty quickly, where I don't know if it's going to be a clean transition, but I think as you start to see some of these political ideas start to circulate, it's going to be very interesting to see how fast things change, because people are not right. There's I can't remember if it's a quote or someone said it, but basically once young men decide to matter, they're the only demographic that matters at all, right? Or something
correct, because that's the last thing you want. Young men gathered together in one place is basically, you have everything that is needed for a revolution.
Yeah. Especially if you don't give them a reason to participate in the current system, right?
I mean, the left knows this very well, right? We see with the left and the intelligence agencies with the color revolutions, especially the last one that they did in the Maidan in the Ukraine. I mean, look at it. What was it? It was just a bunch of disgruntled young men who wanted to think it's cool, and they want to be part of Europe and this, that, and the other. And look what happened. It's a very dangerous thing. So, yeah, if once it gets to that crescendo, that would be the only demographic that would matter at that point.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing that's like tough to see too, like in Ukraine, you basically have a whole group that has been used as puppets for, I mean, they basically shoveled an entire country effectively into the meat grinder, and they're demographically not going to recover from it. But there's like speculation what happens after all this stuff is wrapped up, and it doesn't look good for Ukraine continuing on as a independent country, even if they do become like a rump state or whatever it is. So
yeah,
I mean, I just kind of look at it, all this stuff. The people that assume markets and culture and politics are gonna be like, go back to the way they were, where all this stuff can operate in the background. Markets are going to be up and to the right for the most part, few interruptions here and there, but they'll basically keep making everyone making money for everyone, even if like you don't do any work, you just stuff your money in the S&P and you get your 15% a year, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to continue. So
yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, man. I think we're coming to the breaking point. There's only so many bubbles that you could blow, and we're we're running low out of bubbles, man. We're running low.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing too.
That's why I think crypto is the next bubble for the institutions. Yeah, because when you're, I mean, look, man, we've been in a solvency crisis since the end of 2008, right? Nothing's been systemically fixed. And if you're all about, if you're a financial institution, you're all about chasing the yield. Well, what's the next high water mark here for you to financialize? It's going to be digital assets and all the other bullshit in investment vehicles that stem from it.
Well, I'm not all that interested in crypto. There is one that I've been thinking about buying lately, but that's kind of a separate rabbit hole. Yeah. I think the thing with crypto that is interesting is, like you said, you're seeing institutions and big money flow into these ETFs, and people can get into like how that's basically going to be the equivalent of capping the price with gold and gold futures and all these other derivatives of it. But I don't think, like, there's a lot of Bitcoiners where it's become a religion and number must go up, and that's like what they base it on. And I just look at it as like, what does it create? Where's the cash flows? Where's how do you value it? And that's why I prefer like looking at businesses or physical commodities, where like to go to platinum, for example, like the fundamental case for platinum is way easier to make than for something like Bitcoin.
100%.
I think,
but don't tell that to the crypto bros. Crypto bros be like, bro, you don't understand, man.
Well, I mean, I think I am totally fine with not understanding every little detail. I think the stable coins and what you see, what they're doing with treasuries, it has me a little bit nervous, and it's not the exact same, but I do have this like nagging voice in the back of my head that has me wondering about, is this a way for a backdoor CBDC? Right.
100%.
And
they just won't call it a central bank issued digital currency. They'll call it something else. They'll call it
a treasury issued like
get
currency.
yourself the official U.S. Treasury coin. But in reality, it's all back ended by the Fed. It's all back ended by the Fed member banks. That's what the whole thing. That's what it's coming down to. They're just changing the fucking name. You change the color of the lipstick on the pig. It's still lipstick on a pig.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at it and there's like the control and like that rabbit hole of like, okay, we need digital ID or whatever to go through airports. We need to bring a passport. We need to bring whatever.
Yeah.
Like all these different things. Like I was flying inside the US, was it a couple months ago, and I had not even heard about this, and all I had was my driver's license, and they were like threatening me with like enhanced search or whatever. I'm just like, look, I didn't fucking know. Like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And I think the control of some of these things, it really is like the slippery slope. And when you hear people talking about that as a fallacy, I just don't see it. Like, it seems like that's exactly how the world works, is you start going down one of these paths because I don't know, George W. Bush and his crew had the Patriot Act all cooked up, ready to go in preparation for 9/11.
How convenient, right?
I mean, they just had it like several hundred-page bill ready to go. What do you know? But when you have stuff like that, and it leads to, okay, we need to take off our shoes, like what are we going to be doing? The cavity search here, like we're in prison at some point. I do wonder how long this goes on, and if like there are ways to deal with the security side that make more sense, but that's how you get in trouble with like the Civil Rights Act, for example, right? So it is what it is. All this stuff is like we'll see where it goes, and I just am nervous about stuff like the stable coins, like potential for backdoor CBDC, some of the control that might allow, and also how easy it would be to manipulate different markets and different currencies, even easier than it already is, right? Because you look at it, they're already in there manipulating bonds and yields and all this other stuff, but we'll kind of see where it goes. I just have this uneasy feeling right now that things are going to get very interesting over the next several years.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, man. I think a lot of people that are thinking that the blockchain, it's blockchain. There's several ways to manipulate crypto without even messing with the blockchain, and you see it daily. Wash rate. There's no reason why Bitcoin's at $115,000. There's no reason, none. And I'm somebody who's on the back end, on the institutional side of these things, so I see it, and it makes no sense, man. And it makes no sense.
Well, that's the thing is, like I'll mention, this is not like recommendation at all. I don't own any. The one crypto that has me a little bit interested is Ripple, because I can understand why people would be interested in a cryptocurrency that allows you to exchange and settle instantly from one currency to another without having to go through certain gates as far as banking system or Swift, right? If it turns out Ripple is something that kills Swift and does all that, like, I find that pretty interesting. I'm not saying it's like going to be a core holding if I ever do buy any, but
no, you got to be pragmatic about it, right?
I just look at it as like, okay, there's an actual use case there. With Bitcoin, I just don't get it, and so that's why I don't own any. So
the other thing also with Ripple with XRP, it's that it's you can easily scale it. It's scalable. You have a lot of institutions behind it, and guys, here's the thing: we all know it's the bankster's coin. We get it, but the point that's being trying to make is that the only company out there crypto wise that's actually doing things and buying actual infrastructure and buying and purchasing technology is Ripple. They're the only ones doing it. And yeah, are they a pure crypto in the full sense of the world? No, they're not. They're not a completely decentralized. The issuer is Ripple Labs. We know these things, right? My favorite crypto would be like Monero. Would be to me is a real crypto. Zcash is another one. But Bitcoin with its clunky 7 transactions per second, you can't really scale it. It's digital gold. Nah, I don't think so. It didn't behave like digital gold when the pandemic started in 2020, when we saw it drop from like 36,000 down to 6,000, down to like less than $6,000. It didn't behave like digital gold at all. Ethereum is a dumpster fire. It's so it's interesting to see where all this crap goes. And you talk to the crypto bros, that they'll tell you, oh yeah, it's they give you some marketing line off of a white paper they read. I'm just like, okay, whatever, man. No, you just don't get it, man. This coin is being utilized for the enhanced streaming for Netflix. But is Netflix actually using this? No. It's like, oh, this is being used by Sony Motion Pictures because this coin is going to help with the uploading of videos to a hard drive. It's going to make it easier to find and sort and create a digital data link. Okay, is it actually happening? No, it's a fucking white paper.
Yeah. Well, I think if you go back to the root cause of why people have been fascinated by crypto is with all the liquidity sloshing around and kind of the overall attitude of financial nihilism, where it's like, oh yeah, if I throw $10 at Fartcoin, it can somehow turn into 1,000. Or I mean, in some other cases, it's 50,000 or 100,000 or
pure fiat speculation. That's all it is.
And it just is. I mean, it's understandable on some level where it's like, okay, I'm never going to get ahead, so why not bet on the sports parlay that some guy's going to hit a home run and Paul Skeens is going to have 11 strikeouts in the next start, whatever it is. Some of these different things, we see how what happens when if your money becomes unmoored from reality and it just is effectively monopoly money, then it kind of leads to stuff like this. And it's not Weimar type inflation, but the amount of debasement we've had just in my lifetime, I think everyone's starting to see it. And that's why, especially if you're not, if you don't see a path out, like that's where you can end up in what I think is basically despair, and you end up gambling, which, I mean, let's face it, most of the crypto market is just gambling, right?
Yeah,
it's a different casino. But point is, there's my buddy basically likes to call it financial warfare, where if you show you have any edge in like the sports gambling apps, whether it's DraftKings or whatever, you'll basically get booted off, right?
Yeah.
If you show you have any strategy, right? So look, I understand they have a business to run and they have to make money, whatever. But if there's no element of fairness where people can actually like make bets and try and earn money that way fairly, then I just don't see, like, stuff like this is unsustainable. I think that's where that's the biggest thing is the crypto and sports gambling and all this other stuff that people rant and rave about. It's just unsustainable.
Yeah, exactly. Ben, I think we covered a good bit of ground. Anything else you'd want to say?
I don't have anything else to rant on. I do have a question for you.
Sure.
You'd mentioned a while back that platinum is used in nuclear reactors as far as the reaction. I was trying to figure out, get like a resource on that where I could figure out how much platinum is used just for that. I don't know if you know that off the top of your head or if that's
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have to ask you another time, then we can maybe poke around, see if there's any resources on it. But I know a lot of guys that are bullish on uranium and bullish on platinum. And I was just trying to figure out if that's something where you could see, okay, we're going to have a whole bunch more, basically a ton of nuclear reactors get built over the next 5 or 10 years, which I think is coming. And it would be interesting to see how much platinum might be required for that. But that was the only other thing that I was hoping to talk about. But I think we hit on oil, got to rant a little bit about politics and current events. So I think we kind of covered the usual. So yeah.
Awesome. Folks, thank you all for listening in. Ben, thank you for being on, and he'll be back next week on Kelleran's Corner right here, Rogue News ESW. And with that being said, we're over and out.